The world's 10 poorest countries. All of the poorest countries in the world are located in Africa, which can seem remarkable. The continent as a whole has lower levels of success economically than the other 6 continents around the world. Welcome to 3M News. Here, we look at the top 10 poorest countries in the world. Unsurprisingly, the countries on our list are also countries hit hard by disease, war and conflict, corruptions and extreme weather conditions like drought. These often become compounding factors that keep communities trapped in cycles of poverty. But before we start, be sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon for more interesting videos. One of the factors used to determine the wealth of nations around the world is the gross national income. The United Nations Human Development Reports ranks countries not only by their GNI, but also by the life expectancy at birth, mean years of schooling, and their own Human Development Index, HDI, value. With all of this in mind, here are the world's top 10 poorest countries. 10. Liberia. Africa's oldest republic, Liberia suffered from a series of civil wars between 1989 and 2003. While peace has now outlasted war, GNI per capita is a mere $667 with a life expectancy of 63. Liberia was also hit hard by the West African Ebola epidemic of 2014-16, which infected 10,000 Liberians and killed 5,000. The outbreak has had a lasting impact on the livelihoods of survivors. The World Bank's most recent survey of the country in 2016 estimated nearly 51% of the population of 5 million are living below the poverty line. While education is expected to last 10 years, most Liberians only complete 5 years of schooling. The 42% of Liberians without access to protected wells, nutritional programs to offset the 35% of children who are stunted, and initiatives against malaria and gender-based violence. 9. Mali. The 4th largest country on the African continent, Mali's capital of Timbuktu once flourished as a trading post. Today, however, the country, which gained independence from France in 1960, has a GNI per capita of $1,953 and a life expectancy of 58. Ongoing war and conflict mean that the mean years of schooling in the country is just 2, compared to an expected 7 years of schooling. The World Bank's most recent data from 2009 reveal that over 41% of the population of 20 million live below the poverty line. 8. Burkina Faso. Bordered by both Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso is another former French colony that has suffered conflict and coups following its independence in 1960. Drought has also plagued the country, resulting in a mean 1 year of schooling compared to the expected 8 years. Burkina Faso's GNI per capita is $1,650, with a life expectancy of 60. The World Bank's 2014 data indicate just over 40% of the population of 21 million living in poverty. The hunger situation in Burkina Faso is classified as alarming according to the latest Global Hunger Index. Every 5th person is undernourished and half of the population faces food insecurity several months per year. 7. Sierra Leone. A UN peacekeeping mission helped to quell Sierra Leone's 11-year civil war in 2002. While the country's economy has grown in peacetime, it was one of the 2 countries hit hardest by the 2014-2016 Ebola epidemic alongside Liberia. The World Bank's most recent data predates this epidemic, with 2011 estimates indicating nearly 53% of 7 million Sierra Leoneans living below the poverty line. The country has a life expectancy of 52 years, with a GNI per capita of $1,240 and a mean years of schooling at 3, compared to the expected 9 years. While the Ebola outbreak has passed and the economy has rebounded in part due to the resumption of iron ore mining, the outlook is still challenging. One area of focus is the country's environmental challenges, which are directly linked to a number of potential emergencies, such as the 2017 mudslide. 6. Burundi. The Republic of Burundi has been in conflict consistently since gaining independence from Belgium in 1962. Culminating in civil war in 1994, the conflict has left nearly 65% of the population of 11 million living in extreme poverty, according to 2014 data from the World Bank. Its GNI per capita is a mere $702, with a life expectancy of 57 years. Most children only complete 3 years of schooling, against an expected education of 11 years. Many are excluded from the national health system, with 740 deaths per 100,000 live births. The country is one of the most dangerous places in the world to have a child. 5. Chad. Despite a $4 billion pipeline that links the country's oil fields to coastline terminals, Chad is one of the world's poorest countries thanks to poor infrastructure and conflict, most notably from the Muslim militant group Boko Haram. Ongoing conflict and the effects of climate change mean that nearly 48% of 13 million Chadians live in a state of economic vulnerability, per World Bank data from 2011. The country's per capita GNI is $1,750 and its average life expectancy is 53 years. Most children receive a mean of 2 years of schooling, compared to the expected 8 years. 4. South Sudan. The Republic of South Sudan gained independence in July 2011, but has experienced a long history of conflict, displacement, and deepening humanitarian needs. As of 2016, the World Bank estimates over 82% of the 12 million South Sudanese population are living in extreme poverty. While mean years of schooling are comparable to expected years, 4 and 5 years, respectively, life expectancy is just 57 years and GNI per capita is $963. Widespread displacement puts untold pressure on people's ability to cope. With over 2 million South Sudanese refugees living abroad and another 2 million internally displaced. At number 3 spot, Niger. A combination of a GNI per capita of $906, life expectancy of 60 years, and a mean 2 years of schooling, against an expected 5, lead to Niger as one of the world's poorest countries. World Bank data from 2014 estimate 44% of the country's population of 21 million living in extreme poverty. Communities face several daunting development challenges, which are exacerbated by Muslim terrorist incursions, migration, climate change, and excessive population growth. Poverty manifests in Niger through high levels of food insecurity, illnesses including endemic malaria, and poor access to services including water and sanitation. Crises around agriculture have compounded into hunger and nutrition issues and have affected much of the Nigerian population in the last 20 years, jeopardizing the lives of millions of people. This has led to 3 major crises in the last 10 years. Many villages and families have no access to quality health care services and education, improve food security and nutrition, foster gender equality, and enhance livelihood systems and environmental protection, some of the main causes of global poverty. At number 2 spot, Central African Republic. Unsurprisingly, the world's hungriest country is also one of the poorest. In the 2018 Global Hunger Index, GHI, the Central African Republic was the only country with hunger levels classified as extremely alarming. The connection between hunger and poverty is apparent here. 2008 estimates from the World Bank suggest 62% of 4 million Central Africans are living at or below the poverty line, with the UN indicating a life expectancy of just 53 years. The country's GNI per capita is $663, with a mean of 4 years of schooling completed against the expected 7 years. Since early 2013, ethnic and sectarian fighting in Central African Republic has developed from a silent emergency into a complex humanitarian crisis. Conflict has severely affected the livelihoods and living conditions of over half of the 5 million population. It's also forced over 500,000 citizens to flee to neighboring countries, and has increased the number of Central Africans in need by 13% since March 2018. The country also has one of the world's highest rates of child mortality. The countries that have higher population sizes and lower life expectancies tend to have a lower overall gross national income value and GDP value in comparison to countries with fewer people and higher life expectancy rates. The Central African Republic, for example, is the second poorest country in Africa, has a population of 5 million people and a life expectancy of 53 years. At number 1. Somalia. The poorest countries in Africa are also the poorest countries in the world. The country with the lowest GDP in all of Africa is Somalia. Based on data collected from research looking into the GDP values of African countries, Somalia currently has the lowest GDP per capita. It is ranked as number 54 in terms of countries with the lowest GDP per capita in Africa. On a global scale, Somalia is ranked at 188. GNI per capita of Somalia was reported at $312 in 2018, according to the World Bank. The poverty rate is currently 73% of population of 15 million living below poverty line. 70% of the population in Somalia is under the age of 30 and the life expectancy is as low as 55%. Unemployment among youth is widespread, as 67% of youth are unemployed. Years of conflict and fragility have left Somalia's economy with a range of challenges, including population growth outstripping economic growth, acute poverty and vulnerability, recurrent external trade and climate shocks. Weak fiscal space and institutions, active insurgency, and an incomplete political settlement have also affected the country's economic strength. Somalia recently cleared its arrears to the International Development Association, paving the way for the country to receive debt relief. Under the Heavily Indebted Poor Countries Initiative, Somalia's debt will be reduced from $5 billion to $557 million over 3 years. That brings us to the end of today's video, of the 10 poorest countries in the world in 2020.
Hola! Thanks for listening.